Welcome to Zennurgy, the interactive podcast providing resources for building a better life. I am Zennurgy. I am your conduit, your coach, and your catalyst to that better life. A coach draws out hidden potential in a subject. A conduit provides a connection, and a catalyst sparks change. So, today we're going to be talking about empowerment in a lot of different areas of life, and then we're going to get into Lindsay Brooks' specialty, which is actually sexual empowerment as we get later into the broadcast. And so I just wanted you to say hi to the people.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So we're going to start off kind of with a broad just overview of what we think empowerment is and why it's important, and just how people can begin on that journey of really empowering themselves. And so for me, when I think of empowerment, I'm a high school teacher. And so I come from the perspective of a parent, a grandparent, and a teacher, and also a woman. So I look at learned helplessness. I see students sometimes who they give up before they've really even tried.
Sure.
You know, they have this mentality in their head. Like I teach English, and some of you out there in the audience may be like, I hated English. And you might have walked into your English class already thinking, oh, I'm going to get a C or a D in this class. I'm going to struggle the whole time. And those kind of thoughts are disempowering. They actually take your power away, because what you're doing is you're already giving yourself, in a sense, a bad mindset, fears and worries and insecurities. And so you're taking your power away. So empowerment is actually the opposite of that to me. When you are trying to uplift yourself, when you're trying to take back what's been taken away from you, to give yourself permission to really be your best and experience your best life, and even move out of your comfort zone. I think all of those things are empowering. And with students, some of them, you have to say, hey, it's not last year, it's not previous times. This is a whole new thing, and you've grown since that last experience, and you might have a totally different experience. So let's just walk into this with an open mind, and the same thing with my sons and my grandson. Just people sometimes are so quick to give up. But if you can say, hey, okay, let's try again. Let's just believe in ourselves a little more. And then they can feel and find that empowerment. And so in a general sense, that's kind of what it means to me. And as a woman, I know that they say when you hit your 40s, you kind of get into a different mindset. I'm in my 50s now. So I think empowerment is also, in a sense, not worrying about what people think and not seeking approval for everything you do, but really following your heart and just feeling like, again, like I said, you have permission to be yourself and to live according to your beliefs and your goals and visions. So it was kind of a long explanation on my part. What comes to mind with you when you think of empowerment, just in a general sense?
Yeah, and I love everything you said. It resonated a lot for me. I'm about to turn 40, so I was like, oh yeah, I can feel that change within me of feeling more and more ready to be like, I'm going to put myself out there and care a lot less about what people think about me. But yeah, in general, I think mindset is a big piece of it, like you talked about, that we get so many negative messages from the world about what we should be, what we shouldn't be. We should be like this, especially as women, a lot of messages like, well, we should be smaller and quieter. And so to really look within and figure out like what is right for me and who am I, and knowing myself well, and then allowing that to shine through. So kind of letting go of those negative internalized messages and really figuring out what is true for you. So I think about it as like self-knowledge, and then having a more positive mindset.
Okay, I agree with that. Self-knowledge. I talk a lot about self-knowledge, and I'm going to see if I can show this. Okay, so Jessica Singleton said, peace. She feels like empowerment is peace. When you are empowered, you begin to walk in peace and feel peace. I can agree with that. And I think self-knowledge brings that too. When I kind of said, okay, I can't do everything. I can't be everything to everybody. So I can be these things, and I struggle in these areas. And I'm just not even I'm going to stay out of this lane. This is not my lane, So I think that was very empowering to me to feel like, okay, I'm going to embrace who I am, and I'm going to be at peace with who I am. And going with that theme for a minute, during COVID, I think a lot of people went through a lot of changes with, we still have COVID going on now, but I mean, that quarantine period where everything was shut down.
Yes.
So during that period, one of the things that empowered me was deciding to cut off all my hair, actually go natural. And I did it in 3 stages. And it was very empowering to me because for so long I had felt like, okay, I don't want to necessarily put these chemicals on my scalp, but society says that this is more professional to have straight hair, to have relaxed hair. And then there came a point in time where I'm like, my hair is breaking, my hair is shedding. I'm possibly going to have a bald spot in the middle of my head because it seems like this part back here just would not grow right. So I feel like it's time to, in a sense, as you said, love myself, know myself. I know that my hair is not doing well with all these chemicals in it. It's thinning out. It's falling out. So I am going to completely go natural and only put natural products in my hair. And I'm going to cut off what was there and start over again, fresh, And so that was very empowering for me. And it opened up the idea of, okay, if this was empowering to me, what else might I want to try? And that's actually kind of partly where the podcast came from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the idea of what is empowering me and how can I use that to empower others. And, so definitely was all about empowerment and not feeling stuck, not feeling in a rut or, just overwhelmed by everything that was going on.
Yeah. And I love that you were like listening to your body, paying attention to your body, and letting go of like some of that societal BS that we're told. What our body should look like and be like. That's such an awesome example of empowerment.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. So kind of the second question is, and we're already kind of going into that, why is empowerment a good goal to have? And you kind of mentioned letting go of those kind of restrictions on who you are and how you can express yourself, because so much of what we've been told is not beneficial. It might have worked at one point in time for a certain group of people, but it doesn't mean that it works for you or for me. And you said listening to your body, and giving yourself permission to step away from societal expectations. So I think it is a good goal to have. I think sometimes we repress ourselves, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this later. We repress these different desires that we have because society says we should be different. And I think back when I was much younger and I was kind of told, okay, get married, have a nice husband, have a couple of kids. You're going to be so happy and so fulfilled when you get married and have a family. And
that's everything.
That's everything. That's it. That's all you need to do. You can have your own goals and be independent and have a good education, and all these things are good things to fall back on. But, your main priority should be being family oriented, and that should be your main priority. And then, I got married. I was married for 2 marriages, 17 years total. And, it wasn't the happy life that I was promised. Parenting is also challenging. There's so much good in it, so much amazing experiences in it, but it's not going to make you happy. You have to make yourself happy. You have to find the things that make you happy. A man, a relationship, a marriage, kids, none of that will make you happy. None of it will make I don't think anybody happy. There are moments of happiness, but you have to find what makes you happy. And so for me, part of empowerment was saying, this isn't making me happy. What would make me happy?
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, and finding my talents and my gifts and pursuing that, and trying to, in a sense, be fulfilled. Like, what did I come to this earth to do? What is my purpose? That
Mhm.
kind of thing. And that was very empowering to me to feel like, okay, I'm walking in my purpose.
Yeah.
Um, and so why would you say it's a good goal to be,
Mm.
empowered? Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of empowerment as a tool for liberation. Like, I think about it on kind of that bigger, scale of like, um, we are oppressed in so many different ways by society. And empowerment to me is like that individual way that we can fight against those systems. And so by things that might feel like small steps of like, okay, I'm going to explore something I was told I wasn't supposed to explore, or I'm going to speak up about something that's important to me and not remain silent about it. That I feel like is a personal liberation for that person. And then if we all do a bit more of that, I think that can lead to bigger change. So I feel like it's a great goal for each person individually, and then collectively, I just think about the power of that, of like what movement that could create. So I'm particularly, I work with women, and I'm particularly passionate about women's liberation. And I feel like, we are so often told to silence our voices and be nice and be quiet. And so I think especially for women to like find that voice
Hmm.
is really, really powerful. So just speaking up can be liberating for you and for other women around you.
I agree with that. And when you were talking, I started thinking about my favorite poet is Nikki Giovanni.
I'm not familiar.
And hmm?
I'm not familiar. I'll have to check her out.
She, you have to look up her poetry, but one of her quotes, she said something to the effect of, um, just being a woman, being a natural woman,
Mm,
and loving yourself as a woman is
mm,
revolutionary,
yes.
because society will tell you not to,
Right.
that there's something inferior or defective or less than about you.
Mm,
And then she said also, just, loving a black man as a black woman is
mm,
revolutionary. So when I am my natural self, loving my natural self as a woman, that's
mm,
revolutionary. And when I'm walking in that loving relationship, that's
mm,
revolutionary. And it was a very powerful piece. She's written a lot of very powerful pieces, but that's kind of a quote that resonated with me. And I think about Maya Angelou, and I remember as a young girl reading I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings.
mm,
And that was the first time I had ever heard anyone write about sexual abuse,
mm,
incest, or any of those kind of things. And her using her voice, which she had chosen not to speak, because when she told her relatives that she had been raped, the man who raped her was killed, and she thought that her voice could be deadly, and
mm,
she chose not to speak. And then she took her voice back
mm,
and began to, write and speak and perform and sing, and her voice, captivated millions. And she became, a poet laureate and all kinds of things. And so that's the power of the voice. And then talking about empowerment, I think of Rosa Parks just saying, "I'm tired. I'm not giving up my seat.
yes.
I'm listening to my body. My body says I'm tired, and
Yes.
I'm not going to give this seat up."
Mm,
And so there, and just so many women, that have stood up and said, "Hey, I'm going to stand up for what I believe," and
yeah.
not give in, you know. And you were talking about society. There used to be this thing called the cult of domesticity,
Mm,
basically, that you need to be the perfect wife, and you need to have the perfect home, and you need to have everything needs to be perfect for you to even be a good woman.
mm,
And then
mhm,
there were women that said, no, I can be a good person, a good woman, even if I'm not perfect, even if I don't have the perfect home, the perfect body, the perfect whatever. I can be, I'm still valuable,
Yeah,
still valuable.
absolutely. I think we're still unlearning that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's still a lot of that in society. I feel like now we've kind of switched to you need to have the perfect home and all that stuff, and you need to have the amazing career, and you need to have the kid. Like
Mm.
you're supposed to do it all perfectly now, and that's a new kind of kind of challenge, and asks so much of us that I feel like it's an impossible, like superhuman ask for women to do all those things perfectly.
Yeah,
And
and for anybody, as we talk about empowerment, this doesn't leave out men, you know, because everyone is pressured in their own way to conform. Men are told not to cry sometimes,
right.
not, to be tough,
Mhm.
to always be, in a sense, in charge. And that can be oppressive also, where they're not allowed to be human and have feelings.
Mhm.
Um, and, and even, I remember this woman wrote an article, and I have no idea what her name is. And the title of the article was something about, I'm a Black woman, you praise me for my strength, but don't tell me to shut up about my problems.
Oh yeah.
Because basically she was saying that people always say, oh, Black women are so strong. They're so strong. They're so strong. But then when we complain, we're angry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
we can be strong, but we have to be strong and silent,
Right.
you know? And we are not allowed to have other feelings besides just being strong and taking it.
Mhm.
And even that whole idea of the ride or die, I need this chick who's a ride or die, she's just loyal, loyal, loyal.
Right.
That's again a lack of empowerment, because sometimes that comes with abuse or
Right.
being neglected.
Mhm. Right. That expectation, like, are we just supposed to tolerate any kind of treatment and stay, no matter what?
So do you think that that's what happens with a lack of empowerment, that there is that I take too much?
Yes. Yeah, that it's kind of the opposite, where you can become voiceless, right? Like you're disconnected from your own needs. You may not even know what they are, and can get caught in that kind of like people pleasing trap. Like I'm supposed to be everything for everyone else. And then that allows space for people to abuse and take advantage of that, right? In an extreme form. Um, in a but I think in a real like common everyday kind of ways, we see women putting their needs aside for
Mm.
the people around them. And certainly we all, there's ebb and flow of your needs and your partner's needs or your kids' need, throughout life. But I feel like there's so often an imbalance. And so women are losing connection with themselves to try to do and be all of those things. Um, so that can lead you to be disconnected from your emotions, your body, can take you down a spiral of shame or depression, anxiety, can go all kinds of negative places.
Yeah, you said a lot right there. So, I mean, I remember feeling afraid that if I took better care of myself and had better boundaries, that I would be called selfish.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be called selfish. I wanted to be considered generous and giving and loving and all of these things. But loving myself wasn't very high on that priority list.
Mm,
And I had to learn empowerment, in a sense. I had to learn that you do, someone said this, I don't know who, we probably have all heard this saying of, if you're on a plane
mm,
and the plane goes through turbulence,
yeah.
the stewardess will tell you when the oxygen mask drops down, put it on your face first.
Mhm.
Because if you pass out, you can't help anyone.
Right.
So you have to first take care of yourself,
Yeah.
and then you have something from your cup to give. And that was something that I had to learn, because I was
Mhm.
always afraid of, if I take care of myself, people are going to think I'm selfish.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And we're told that so often, right? When we do set a boundary,
Mm,
well, there's something wrong with you. Like, why? why do you need this boundary? Why is this not okay? Oh, you know, you're selfish for just focusing on, you know, whatever it is you're setting a boundary about. So I think that's really real. And so it's very brave to set boundaries anyway, right? To know that it's so important for me, even if this person has a negative reaction about them. And that doesn't mean that my boundary isn't important or okay.
That's true. So I know that you went from one type of therapy into a different type of therapy
Mhm.
based on your bio. So why don't you talk about like what made you change and why did you get into um, it's called the Sexual Empowerment School, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which is really cool. I love that title. So what made you switch from one to the other?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I always, you know, started my career as like a general therapist. So I work with people with, you know, all kinds of issues, depression, anxiety, relationships, kind of the whole spectrum. But always focused in on diversity within that, working with, you know, sexually diverse folks, culturally diverse folks, and kind of specializing in supporting them with the different, you know, challenges and oppressions, you know, they're dealing with. Um, and so I found over time in that work, just doing more, you know, specifically diversity focused work, people found like, oh, okay, you're safe to talk about cultural stuff with, you're safe to talk about racism with, you're safe to talk about, you know, my sexual identity, you know, maybe I'm questioning, am I gay, or those kind of things. Um, and over time, they were like, oh, and actually, are you safe to talk about my sex life with? Like, I just discovered more and more like that started coming up. Like, I always thought of myself as like a sex positive person. And certainly wanted my clients to feel comfortable talking to me about that. But there's not a lot of emphasis in our training in general, you know, mental health training. And so I just found as like that grew as a need of my clients more and more, I was like, I really want to support people with this and enjoy this work. And so decided to pursue, you know, extra training in sex therapy. Um, and then as I explored that, I felt like, you know, there's a need beyond just like one-on-one therapy for people to have support with this. Like there's such a big gap in sex education most of us didn't get. That being able to share it more broadly, I feel like is really important. So that's, you know, why I decided to start Sexual Empowerment School, which kind of takes it, you know, out of the therapy context. And I just want to share some of the information I've learned in, you know, in workshops and online resources and talks like this to get that information out there so that people deserve it and are getting it.
Okay, that's awesome. You know, I think American society is repressed.
Mhm.
I think about movies, for example,
Mhm.
can have 500,000 shots fired
Right.
in a movie, and it could be PG,
Mhm.
right? And it's just okay. That's okay to see all
Right.
of this blood and gore, but
Mhm.
show one scantily clad woman or one, you know, pair of breasts or anything, and it's almost, you know, RX or something. You know, it's like
Sure.
the human body is so. It's like on the one hand, everything is sexualized. Like they
Mhm.
use sex to sell everything.
Right.
But then on the other hand, it's like things that are natural, like breastfeeding. You know, I mean, it's like people just have a fit. Like if a woman were to cover up and
Mhm.
be breastfeeding in public, that's just like so taboo.
Right.
And just
You're your child, my goodness.
yeah, it's like, oh, you horrible person. What are
Right.
you doing? Oh, but
Yeah.
don't you have any manners, any morals? You know, what is wrong with you?
Right.
So it's just like it seems that this is like I said, such a taboo. The human body is such a taboo that it needs to be hidden. It needs to be um anytime it's shown in any kind of way, it's gonna be I remember just going back to the Super Bowl,
Mm. Oh,
Janet
yeah.
Jackson's wardrobe malfunction. You
Yes.
would have thought, you know, that there was a graphic sex act, you know, performed
Right.
on stage from the way people acted from that. It was, and I understand everyone was shocked, and I know that she didn't in any way want to any of that to happen, but I mean, my goodness.
Right.
You know, it seems a little overkill, you
Yes,
know.
absolutely. And also it was like her fault, right? When there was a man who actually was the one who pulled off and revealed what we shouldn't have seen, right? Like
Right.
Right.
So
She's the one blamed and shamed for that.
yeah, and it just seems, man, I'm even on Facebook, right? So I'm in these different groups, and you'll see these posts like, is masturbation a sin? Or,
Mhm.
this guy was on a Facebook group that I'm in, and he was saying, I can't believe you women say that you're abstinent, but I'm sure you masturbate.
Mm.
What does that have to do with abstinence? I mean, I didn't think that I think abstinence was abstaining from sex with other people. That's the way I always understood it.
Right. Yeah.
So I just thought, it's like, or the whole idea of, body counts. And there's just so much stuff that's out there and people are, I don't know, struggling with.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
it's I'm glad someone's talking about it, because I think that I think that there are people who need someone to talk to, um,
Yeah.
and need to feel better, I guess, about
Mhm.
the choices that they're making. Some people might be offended by that because they think it's good that we live in shame and repression, and they
Mhm.
feel like society is too loose as it is.
Mhm.
And I'm not one to, I guess you could say, judge people's lives, because I've been, growing up. I went to Catholic school
Mm.
till 8th grade,
I can imagine what kind of
and
education you got.
right. So then I went to public school,
Uh-huh.
and I actually was in church all the time,
Mm.
and basically saved myself till I got to my senior year of college. Did
Mhm.
not have sex until then. I was afraid of sex,
Mm.
point blank. I was afraid because I thought, okay, people act like if you have sex, you can't control yourself. Like you're just gonna lose your mind,
Right.
And that was a scary thought to me. Like, they act like once you go down this path, once you've experienced it, like you just become this lunatic, this raving, mad, sex crazed fiend.
Mhm.
And that was the idea that I had of sex.
Mm.
So I was not prepared, in a sense, to be that person.
Mm.
um and that is, now that I'm much older and I look back, I'm like, why would people do this to children? Why would they make them so scared of something that's so natural and is how we got here? And this is one of the reasons why I'm not in church now, because I look at church and I say, as much good as it can do,
Mhm.
it does, in a sense, so much harm to so many people
Yeah.
by making them vilify their own bodies. Because
Mhm.
I was taught there's a war between your flesh and your
Mm.
spirit. So you shouldn't
Mm.
trust your body. You shouldn't be in tune with your body. You shouldn't even really care about your body. You should crucify your body and
Mm.
basically, push it down, push all the desires you have down and repress them.
Wow.
And unlearning that, and beginning to
Mm.
love my body, and love myself fully, the skin
Mm.
that I'm in, and everything about myself, was a long, very long process
Sure.
that I'm still, beginning to walk even, better in today.
Mm.
So yeah, I think you have your work cut out for you in empowering people, because that's my background. And
Yeah.
so when people look at me now and they'll see me post certain things, and I'm much more, I don't judge people. I feel like people should, in a sense, follow their hearts, follow their guidance, their inner wisdom,
Mhm.
and sex should be enjoyed. It should not be something that you're ashamed of. It should be something that you consider, uh, something that should be, how can I put it, safely done,
Right.
and has parameters. I definitely don't believe in rape or any kind of abusive things with it, but it should not be where I was raised.
Mhm.
That, oh my God, it's, the devil's work, and, you just going to be this sex crave lunatic. And I
Right.
remember, I'm going to say this one more thing and I'm going to let you talk for a while, because I don't want to just talk forever, but I remember
I
being,
knew prior story, so I'm just captivated.
well, I remember being engaged. I was actually engaged to a guy in the church.
Mm.
And I told him, I said, I'm looking forward to when we get married because I want to go and buy lingerie and I want to dress up for you. And
Mm.
he said, why would you want to sexually tempt me?
Oh.
You were going to be my husband. This is going to be our first, I thought we were waiting for all of this. You
Right.
don't even want me to wear lingerie for you because you feel like that's going to make you lust.
Right.
I want you to desire me. And at that moment, I realized that, and the sad thing to say
Mm.
is that I thought something was wrong with me. And
Oh.
I thought that he was more spiritual than I was
Oh no.
because he didn't want to lust after me. And
Mm.
I wanted him to lust after me. And am I tempting him? Am I a Jezebel? Am I, oh my God,
Mm.
and looking back on that, I'm like, oh, wow. I
Yeah.
wasn't even able to have a conversation about lingerie with
Right.
the man I was engaged to without, in a sense, him saying, shame on you
Right.
for wanting to wear something that would make me desire you.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
was like,
that's something you should put down, keep a lid on,
yeah. So when does the lid come off? And when does a person, if marriage isn't the place where it happens, then when does it ever happen?
Right.
So at that point I was like, well, not at that point, because at that point I was still questioning, but later on I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I can't believe in these things anymore. um,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just too, anything that causes this much conflict within me
Yeah.
cannot be what the path I'm supposed to be on. I shouldn't have all this conflict within me about natural, normal desires, like wanting my husband to desire me, wanting to wear lingerie for my husband. That shouldn't be something that causes a disagreement,
Exactly. Yeah. And good for you
So,
for listening to yourself. Like, ooh, this conflict does not feel good. This is not
right,
and where I belong.
right. So I guess tell us more about like the sexual empowerment school and how you started it and like what are the goals of it? How are you trying to help people in a sense like me or
Sure.
people who might have had their own journey
Yeah.
that are coming and saying, okay, I want to be empowered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think your story resonates so much as like exactly like the kind of thing that I like to help support women with, right? Where they've gotten, whether it's from the church or their family or wherever society at large, wherever it's come from. I feel like there's so many different directions when we get the message like, you should keep your sexuality under control. It's not something you should explore. Um, and so people have gotten that message, have started to question like that doesn't feel right to me. I feel like this is a natural, normal and thing, but I haven't learned about it. I don't have any support to begin to explore it, and I'm ready to start to explore it. So a big piece of what I do is trying to help women unlearn those shame and fear-based messages. So unpacking like, okay, what are the messages that you learned? And can we explore them? Are there things that are clearly not true that are in there that we can help you get some more information about? Are there different ways we can start helping you look at sex? And for example, like I don't think people, it's not true for everyone that they need to like disconnect from their faith to explore this. So is there a way within for them, their faith, like can they look at their sexuality as part of something that is natural and that was like God given for them and they could still explore it even if they want to stay connected with their faith. So just kind of figuring out with them what are new ways that they could hold on to those different parts of themselves, and beginning to tell themselves new stories. So that's a big part of the mindset piece, and then working on skills as well. So working on communication skills. How can I talk with my partner about my desires? How can I bring it up? How can I respond if they say something not very supportive? Um, and also working on mindfulness skills is a big piece of it too. Like you said, it's you were taught to like just disconnect from your body, like your body is bad and you shouldn't even want to understand it. So learning tools just to connect with your breath and just be in your body, even in a non-sexual sense. Like, how are you supposed to feel comfortable in a sexual situation if you can't even like connect with your breath and just like be with yourself? We're so in our heads in our society, and so do it. So teaching those mindfulness skills to help you settle in too. So those are some of the pieces that I focus on.
That's awesome. And, I did leave the church, but I never left my faith. I mean, in terms of like, I still have faith. I'm a very spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my faith is not grounded in the traditional ideas that I was raised with.
Yeah.
I have let that go. As you say, I have unlearned that.
Yeah.
I have chosen a much more holistic way of being in my body, in my life, than what I was raised with. So that is beautiful. And unlearning is a very powerful thing, but it's good to do it with support, so it's good that you're there for people, because sometimes when you're unlearning, it can be very lonely because you have had this certain group that supported you and framed you and gave you these thoughts, and now you're trying to move away from that, but you may not have another group that is mirroring back to you what you're believing now and searching to become. And that's why I think Facebook, and I think a lot of different groups are out there that people are joining to find that kind of community as they move away from things that are not helpful to them, repressive to them, and moving toward things that are more holistic and more mindful, more supportive, more, in a sense, enlightened. And that's a pretty powerful thing. So
definitely. Yeah. Community is a big part of what I offer too. Like, that's why I really like I do online workshops with a group of women at a time. Like, sometimes people ask me, well, why don't you just like do this work one-on-one, which, I do in therapy, but I feel like the power of community, like, that offers something more beyond what I could just provide one-on-one. So for women to feel that support of like, oh, there are other people out there who feel this way. There are other people who support me. Empowerment will look different for everybody and how they want to pursue that. So it doesn't mean, oh, they're all out kind of doing the same things in their lives. But to feel like, okay, I can talk about it and I can have support and I have a community that's not shaming is huge and really powerful.
That is very powerful. And I know that I've moved into some different groups that have just a very open mind about a lot of things, and just, again, are about empowerment and unlearning and just moving into the fullness of who you are, the fullness of all of your possibilities and your strengths. And like I said, just knowing yourself, as we already talked about. So what, as a person is trying to, I guess, empower themselves, unlearn different things, what are some of the things that you see that happen with people? Like, I guess, stages they go through, or just different things that happen with them?
Yeah. Well, I think, they're not exactly stages, but I feel like they're kind of 4 pieces that I find women are usually missing a few of those. And so if we can kind of help fill in the gaps of those four pieces, then they can move forward in their journey. So the first piece I think about is like getting pleasure-based sex education. That for so many women, like, either they got no sex education, or if they did, it was just focused on like birth control, don't get pregnant, and like, here's what your period is. Like, that's about it. And pleasure is not a part of it whatsoever. So learning about, the parts of your body that give you pleasure, learning about different things that you enjoy, learning it is okay to experience pleasure. Like, I think there can be some fear, like you were talking about, like, oh, if I experience pleasure, I might become some sort of sex crazed monster. I might lose control, right? But that to feel like, oh, it can just be a part of my life that I experience and enjoy, just like enjoying a wonderful meal brings you pleasure. So beginning to learn more of that pleasure-based information, kind of like fill in the gaps of that. And then, there are other pieces, but if you have questions.
I mean, well, as I grew as a woman and as I look back at history and just the way society was set up, I think that women's sexuality has been fearful to some men in power. And, looking back at history, there was a lot of goddess worship at one time.
Yeah.
And then all of that was shut down because that was just a celebration of the divine feminine and just how women we bring life into the world. We are more connected to the unseen, the invisible, through having this portal called a womb that brings, souls into physical being, and that is a very spiritual experience, motherhood, pregnancy, and even sex, is in a sense, people say, oh God, oh God, oh God, when they have sex. So,
Everyone has faith all of a sudden.
It's a very spiritual experience. But I think there is, in a lot of cultures, there's that we need to keep the women under control mentality. And we need to take away their ability to have pleasure, even to the point of like female circumcision or things like that. We need to take away their ability to entice men. Let's wrap them all up so nobody can see anything, because they're just so seductive. Anything beyond their eyes could just make a man lose his mind. So, and it's just that idea, which kind of makes you think, oh, wow, we are really powerful as women, but it's also kind of sad. Like, why can't we just walk together and support each other and see the strengths and the weaknesses in each sex and not try to put one down to raise up the other? It's just crazy to me sometimes, but
yeah, like what would happen if women's sexuality was okay and out there? Like, what is the fear? Like, what
is the fear?
It
is interesting. I don't know what the fear is. I'm not sure why people are so afraid of it. But there is still, I think that we're moving to a world that's accepting a lot of things. They're accepting, there's more body positivity. There's more embrace of all kinds of things. But I think sex is the one area where there's still so much shame and so much repression and so much, and I'm not even talking about just in a sense, like I said, I'm never advocating promiscuity, but just the idea that a woman, as you said, should enjoy sex is crazy to some people. Like, it's just for procreation.
Right.
What is wrong with you? And it's that idea of, if you're not trying to have a baby, you shouldn't be having sex, and I know I've heard in some face that they just cut a hole in the sheet and they don't even want the bodies to touch except for, that one specific part, where, so it's like, wow, why, we were given skin, we were given nerves in our skin, to be able to touch each other, to be able to enjoy a handshake, a kiss, a caress. And why is that so taboo? It's just, it's wild.
Human, right?
Yeah. And speaking of being human, I think that so many people during quarantine realized how important touch is.
Yes.
Because I remember being online and we're all in our houses for like 8 months. And I remember seeing and reading people say things like, I can't wait till I can hug someone.
Yes.
I can't wait until, I can get a kiss on the cheek, or I can they weren't even talking about sex.
Right.
They were just talking about just a hug, a hug,
Yeah.
And it was like, you begin to realize, oh my gosh, I'm touch starved. I'm touch starved.
Mhm.
I need to touch somebody else, even just a kiss on the cheek or a handshake, and just that whole idea that we had been away from each other and hadn't even been able to embrace or be in close proximity. So it's like, wow, we need that,
Right.
and we're born with that, because I know they did a study.
Mm.
This was years ago, and I think it was in an orphanage in Germany or something like that. And they found that in this specific orphanage, these children were dying at this massive rate, right?
Mm.
Like 9 out of 10 babies were dying. Like, it was just this massive rate. And what they realized was that the women would pick the babies up to feed them and put them down and never
Mm.
touch them at any other time except to feed and change them. And the babies were literally dying because they weren't being touched.
Yeah.
And as soon as they began to be touched, then these babies began to become healthy again, and there's a movement, I know, for some mothers to say, hey, keep my baby in the room with me.
Yeah.
Don't take my baby to the nursery where it's going to be in, that incubator for 24 hours a day, except for the times I'm feeding it. No, I want to be able to hold it whenever it cries. I want to be able to put it on my skin. I want
Right.
to, because those mothers realize how powerful touch is,
Totally.
and that we're just wired for it. We need it, And I remember I took this class. I think it was, I don't remember what the class was, but this class said you need 8 significant touches a day to be
Mm.
psychologically healthy. I was like, oh, I'm like way underneath that.
I know.
It's just like, wow. So yeah, it's really powerful that you're teaching women that it's okay for them to get pleasure and to be in their body and to embrace their body and to just be aware of their breath. Breath is powerful. Mindfulness is powerful.
Definitely. Yeah. And what you're saying about, like, mothers and babies, like, we know touch, connects that bond so much. It's so important. Like you're saying, it literally is important for
Yeah,
life, right? And so that doesn't just end when you're a baby. That translates through your adult life. And so even if it's like not sexual touch, like, to touch and feel connected to other humans is just, it's a part of our fundamental needs. And so I hope people can start to, like, think about it from that maybe deeper emotional place. Is like, oh, okay, this touches an emotional need. Everyone needs that. And sex can be one part of that. And maybe that is also a normal, natural emotional need. It doesn't have to be this scary thing.
that's true. So scrolling down there now is her website, and she does have a quiz. What's sabotaging your sexual pleasure?
Mhm.
So do you want to tell us anything about that quiz? Like, why do you want people to take that? Or
Totally. Yeah, it can be really helpful to kind of pinpoint, like, what are the things that are blocks for you right now in feeling, experiencing more pleasure and feeling more connected to yourself, sexually. So, um, there's kind of 4 different things I find that are common. So it's either like you don't have that pleasure-based sex education like we were talking about. Maybe still a lot of those internalized sex negative messages. Maybe you're lacking sexual communication skills, or maybe you're lacking a sex positive, supportive community. So the quiz will ask you questions, help you figure out, like, which of those 4 things are true for you. So you can kind of pinpoint, like, this is the area that maybe I most need to work on and have some support around. And then when you get your result, it'll give you a specific resource of, like, here's a tip of something to try to work on this, and here's a resource for you. So it's a great way to get, like, a pinpointed resource for what you might be needing. So I hope that helps people kind of, like, jumpstart their journey in exploring this more, like, specifically for them.
oh, that's wonderful that you're providing that as a resource. I remember a couple years ago, I think I had read this article, and it said something like 75 to 80% of women did not experience orgasms.
Mm.
When they had sex, it was very rare for them to experience that with a partner. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow,
Yeah.
that is just mind boggling,
Yeah.
and sad.
Right.
And I will say for myself, I've been married twice. I would tell people that, but
Yeah.
I've been divorced almost 7 years now.
Mm.
And the first guy that I dated, I guess you would say, after my divorce
Mm.
was the first time that I actually found out that I was multi-orgasmic.
Mm.
I'm 50. I was 43 when
Wow.
I found that out.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right. Unless you've
Um,
been given permission to explore your own body or have a partner who you're comfortable exploring with. How do you
yeah.
figure that out, right?
So that was a very new experience for me, and to just and then it makes you think, whoa, what else don't I know? What else have I not experienced? Because it's hard to even imagine now that
Mhm.
there was a time when I didn't even know that
Mhm.
about myself, about my own body.
Yeah.
And then to also have a person that says, you know, your sex drive isn't a problem for me.
Mm.
The fact that you want to have sex, that's not a problem for me. I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that. Was
Yeah.
something new for me. Because my first husband, he had a high sex drive. My second husband, we had a lot of sexual issues in our
Mm.
relationship. So again, I kind of felt like I went back to that first
Mhm.
experience of well, you need to just not lust. Lust is the problem. You're lusting.
Mhm.
Stop lusting.
Yeah.
Even with your husband, you know what I mean, or your soon-to-be husband. So it's kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah, it's such a different energy when you think about, like, stop lusting. It feels like, okay, push it down, push it away, versus, like, accept and embrace this part of
Right.
yourself. Accept and embrace your body's natural, reactions. Like, it's just energetically feels so different when you describe those different experiences.
Well, for me, I can't speak for anyone else out there, but
Mm.
I can only speak for myself. Those urges do not go away just because you deny them. They get translated into overworking for me,
Right.
overeating for me,
Mm.
working out too much for me.
Mm.
I have been a workaholic at times in my life. I
Mm.
have been a compulsive exerciser at times in my life, and I've definitely been a compulsive overeater.
Mm.
Um, and that's something that was directly tied to
Mm.
me pushing down so many of my desires.
Sure.
And as I began to say, okay, I'm going to really explore my talents, my skills, my abilities, my
Mm.
desires, and I'm not going to push them down. So
Mhm.
much in my life just began to feel better and feel
Mhm.
healthier. And I began to lose weight, you
Mm.
know, just a lot of different things. So I
Mhm.
think that it can be toxic for some people to continually push down, push down, push down, push down these desires and be told that they are wrong for having them, you know.
Yeah, and
Um,
generally, they tend to if you try to push them down, they tend to pop up in another way.
that's true.
They don't just go away, like you're saying, like, you experienced it and, "Oh, okay, well, I felt like I had to overwork or I had to, soothe with maybe eating or, things like that." It's like, they don't disappear, it just finds another way to to come out.
And I think with some people, they come out as frustration and anger and bitterness. And then some of that is targeted at women or men who don't feel
Mm.
repressed.
Mhm.
Well, I feel repressed, so if you don't feel repressed, then I need to,
Mhm.
I need
Yeah,
to take out my anger on you because you should be feeling what I'm feeling because
sure,
I was told that this is the way I'm supposed to be,
totally.
So
Yeah.
so what else do you want to tell the people about, your school, your
Mhm.
practice, where you are located?
Mhm.
Um,
Sure. Yeah, well, I'm based in San Francisco, but everything is online these days, so so I'm mostly online. So if you want to explore more of the resource and things, sexualempowermentschool.com is the place to go. So like you mentioned, the quiz is there, and I also have for people who like the mindfulness piece and connecting with their body piece really resonates for them. I also have a resource on there called the Pleasure Guide Mindfulness Series, which guides you through mindfulness audios to help you learn to connect more with yourself and your body. And it also has a companion journal that goes along with it that you can reflect on those experiences and helps you kind of unpack any maybe those negative, thoughts that tend to come up as you explore those exercises. So that could be something that I imagine. I know you're big on affirmations
Yeah.
and visualization, all those things. So for people who enjoy that kind of work, that may be a resource that would speak to them.
Okay. So the people who are watching the video or watch it on the replay, they'll be able to see your information at the bottom. But for people who are listening to the podcast later, can you tell them where to find you on social media, on your website, all of that for them?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. So sexualempowermentschool.com is the website where you can find all the resources we talked about. And social media, I'm on Instagram at Sexual Empowerment School. And I put up more kind of little informational videos and things up there. So that's kind of a good place just to stay connected and get just ongoing like updates and, new little tips and things as I share them.
Awesome. 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 And so she's just told you where to find her. I am Zennurgy, so it's Zenase, Zennurgy Poetry on Facebook, Zennurgy on Facebook, and also on Instagram. Zennurgy Poetry is all smushed together. And I do also have several different things that you can get on my website, laughsandlyrics.com/shop. I do have affirmation cards. I brought some of my stuff over here for people who are watching the video. So I have affirmation cards. They're like business cards, but they have different little sayings. I have magnetic bookmarks. So there's some that are square and some that are kind of rounded. So they come in a pack of 10 or a pack of 6. So you can see how they kind of slide on the page. They're magnetized inside. And I also have a pack of 10. Okay. They all have different sayings on them. I do have different keychains. So like this one says inspire. So I have black ones that say like inspire, hope, create, faith, believe. And then I have little motivational bands like this says love. So I have different ones that say different things. I have a bunch of other keychains. They're all colored, so they have different colors like be your own hero, attitude is everything. Those are some different things. And I do have a personal development package. This is actually what the workbook looks like for volume 1. This is all A concepts, and then volume 2. So this is A's and B's. And they're pretty short. Like volume 1 is only 20 pages and volume 2 is 24. So it's not going to get you overwhelmed. So this is actually what the package looks like for volume 1. So it comes with a blank journal, stickers, a motivational band, tabs for your journal. And this is kind of what volume 2 looks like. So you get a keychain in volume 2 instead of the motivational band. So it's a way for you to get some goal setting prompts on some of them, visualization prompts, affirmations, meditation prompts. It's got food for thought in there. It's got a place to put a song, a movie, a book. It's got kind of vision board space where you can cut and paste, put, vision board stuff in there. And it also has a place for you to put like an ancestor that kind of motivates you. Like I talked about Rosa Parks. I talked about Maya Angelou. Or someone who's contemporary that inspires you. I talked about Nikki Giovanni. So you can actually write in your blank journal, like about the journal prompts and about your goals and the books that you're reading. It does have a place to put, books that you're reading, songs you're listening to, movies that inspire you, and also to write about those role models that you may be looking up on YouTube or reading about. So it kind of gives you a lot of different ways to kind of put your left brain and your right brain to work, working on your goals and kind of making yourself a more authentic person, a more empowered person, giving yourself permission to explore a lot of ways of thinking that you might not have thought about before. And so if you want those, that's on my laughsandlyrics.com/shop page. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This was Zennurgy, Zennurgy. It's about the urge for more peace and fulfillment in life. And I wanted to thank Lindsay Brooks for being with us. So tell them again one more time where they can find you.
And thank you so much for having me and sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
But yeah, feel free to connect with me at sexualempowermentschool.com or on Instagram at Sexual Empowerment School. I'd love to connect and build more community.
Awesome. And I told you where to find me, and may you walk in Zennurgy. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Bye. Thank you.